back to our show, Dreams, Passion and Your Hong Kong Story. Every time on this show, we bring before you people from different walks of life who have pursued their passion and found great success in Hong Kong. Today, we have with us a very passionate social activist, someone who has made it a mission in her life to promote sustainable living amongst the people of Hong Kong through the concept of urban farming. Let's meet Michelle Hong, co-founder Rooftop Republic. Hello Michelle and welcome to our show.
Thank you. Thanks, Raya.
So Michelle is from Singapore and she has a background in communication and advertising. When she found an opportunity, she actually joined hand with two of her founders to found Rooftop Republic. The mission of Rooftop Republic is to develop the habit of sustainable living amongst the people of Hong Kong, and she does that by promoting urban farming and also creating the awareness to develop that connect between the consumption of the food and growing of the food. Let's talk to Michelle and find out the initiatives of Rooftop Republic and what role has Hong Kong played in her journey. So Michelle, tell us, how long have you been in Hong Kong and what made you come to Hong Kong?
So I've been in Hong Kong for 11 years now, and I was brought to Hong Kong to do like circumstances in like my previous life, which was in communications and in advertising. So I was pretty much working in that field in Singapore, and I wanted to explore we're living, you know, and life in a different city, and somehow I kind of like reached out to different connections to different cities, and somehow Hong Kong responded.
Was it that as a child you were interested in gardening and that led to your interest in organic food and organic farming, or were it some events that prompted you to go in this direction?
So as a child, I learned a lot from my mom, and she sort of instilled in us this very this love for nature, and we could see it in various aspects of her life. You know, she's very much into repurposing, and she was into like making our household as waste free as possible. It's not really like 100%, but. Yes. I'm always very amazed, even up to this point, how creative she is, you know, in like giving new life to things that, you know, would normally end up in the trash. So, and we had a small little garden when I was growing up. So we had grown very hardy plants, you know, things that would thrive in Singapore, in the Singapore climate, such as, you know, like we had pandan, we had chilies, you know, we had some beans.
Right.
So after moving to Hong Kong, I felt a bit of like that disconnect growing in me. So I obviously, like a lot of Hong Kongers, we seek the nature in hike, you know, like in the hikings, like in country parks.
Right.
And I think somehow it led me on this like a rabbit down the rabbit hole. You know, sort of like look like there are country parks, but there are also farms. There are also organic farms in Hong Kong, and that's when I got to meet and to know some local farmers here and understand a bit more about their passion in growing.
I see.
And placing that against the larger backdrop of you know, Hong Kong as a city, like where's our food coming from? How is our food grown? That's so it became like an eye opener for me. I had a different. I was almost put on a new lens, you know, when I looked at food or even vegetables.
Okay.
In a place like Hong Kong, like locally, you are able to get a lot of very similar varieties, and with first of all less of the food miles, but at the same time you're contributing to the economy, and you're also contributing to the livelihoods of a lot of, you know, very passionate local organic farmers here in Hong Kong.
Okay, you are promoting people to grow their own food, whereas there is a space issue in Hong Kong. So why should people not go just to grocery store and buy food from there, you know, when that can save them time and that can also save them space? Why would you still encourage people to grow the food?
I think the first thing I would address probably is the concept of urban farming as a whole. If we were to sort of throw out that phrase like urban farming, a lot of different images would probably come to people's minds, you know, depending on what you have been reading. So, you know, obviously there are like vertical farming, indoor farming. You've got obviously like hydroponics, and so there is a whole spectrum of what would fall under the category of urban farming. So for Rooftop Republic, what we have chosen to pursue is something we call urban farming as a service.
I see.
So what we do is to provide that platform, we provide that accessibility to people of the city to be able to have the right materials and the hardware as well as the knowledge to grow their own food.
I see.
So the idea of growing their own food is not about saying, oh look, I don't have to step into the supermarket ever again or into the grocery ever again. That's not the end objective. It's really about getting people involved in that process where something that you perhaps eat on a regular basis, but you experience its whole life cycle, the entire growth process from seed to the point of harvest.
Yeah.
And that process is usually very invisible to most people. And especially if we use organic farming practices, it's a lot more challenging, especially in a place like Hong Kong.
Okay.
So when we get people involved in growing something from a seed or a seedling up to the point of harvesting, they know they are involved in that process of deciding what should I add to the soil, like when do I prune, how do I deal with this pest? And they are experiencing on a very micro level, what organic farmers in Hong Kong and everywhere else in the world are practicing.
I see.
Yeah, so they begin to appreciate their food a lot more. They're a lot more connected with the food that they consume, and in a lot of ways they're in greater control of the food that they're putting into their bodies. So they get to eat what they grow, but at the same time, when the next time they go shopping for the necessities for like vegetables, I think they have a different lens, just like me. They have a different lens. They're more knowledgeable about what things grow best in which season and how they should be consuming. So we have a practice and a principle in organic farming called like eating by the seasons. It becomes more natural for a lot of the what we call like the urban farmers or like the city dwellers who grow with us. It's become more and more natural for them to look out for what's in season and also to question, like what's not in season and which is also available.
Okay.
Yeah. So when we grow things in season, there is it's growing with the climate. It's accustomed.
So it's more natural.
It's more natural, and the reliance on chemicals and and
Much
pesticides
less.
and fertilizers is absolutely not necessary.
What are some of the techniques that you have adopted to kind of educate the people towards it? Like, do you have multiple farms of your own, or is it that you do a more custom-based approach of kind of just developing the farm when a customer asks you to develop the farm? So how is your organization promoting this rooftop farming?
So we do go out and look for available spaces and we call idling spaces in the city, and as it turns out, many of them would be like in buildings or in companies who occupy a space in a certain building. So what we do know as well from one of our very long-term partners, this professor called Matthew Pryor. So he's done this research that found out there are 600 hectares of rooftop spaces that are farmable here in Hong Kong.
Wow.
So, and that is very close to the exact amount of land that's being cultivated, but it's being used for farming right now in Hong Kong. So it's literally double. All of it is being used. So I think we are pretty confident at that space. I think the main thing is about finding the right partners and clients who are willing to adopt this concept.
Right.
So like you mentioned earlier, people don't have a lot of space at home.
Yeah.
But there are a lot of spaces in areas where they work. So in their office building, it could be in their schools. It could be in a restaurant. Right. So
and a rooftop like this.
And a rooftop like this. So this is the rooftop of one of our partners, the Business Environment Council. So they're an NGO. So basically building managers or building owners, they have like the access to these buildings, and a lot of these buildings and spaces are they are sort of private, so they're not open to the public. And what we do, apart from bringing more green to these buildings, is changing these into an urban farm where people can gather and to learn about farming in a place where that's really close by to where they exist. So people can come up. So when we were having we were growing a lot of lettuce. In the last season, we had a lot of the tenants as well as colleagues from the offices downstairs come up during lunchtime to learn from a farmer and to do harvesting And this was a regular thing. It wasn't like a one-off. The fact that it's so close by and it's part of your work, sort of like ecosystem, it's so easy for people to come back to this and make it part of their life.
Other than using the corporate spaces, rooftop and balconies, and other than using the government offices, are you also doing this kind of farming or promoting this to residential homes, whoever has space on their balconies or on their rooftops?
Yes. So apart from the corporates, the real estate like buildings, we work with individuals as well. So if you're interested to change your like a balcony or like a ledge, that we are there to help you.
Okay.
So we have different solutions for different kind of spaces.
So do you also have any kind of a distribution outlet through which you're actually selling your organic produce, or is it right now only limited to the concept of teaching and growing the farm?
Yeah. So education as well as the sort of like a mindset, behavioral change is our main focus.
Yeah.
And this is coming through the experience, getting people to have the access over a period of time, like 3 to 4 months, to experience it. And the produce, really, we see it as a bonus, that they get at the end of the day that they could consume. And a lot of our clients and partners, they are also looking sort of beyond their own sort of building ecosystem. They're also looking to reach out to different community groups, NGOs, or different segments of society. So, for example, we have some clients who donate all of the harvest to feeding to a food bank.
Okay.
For example, and also inviting different like schools or different NGOs to come visit and to learn farming. So it's we're trying to create this sort of like a community, building more communities around growing your own food.
So the retail distribution of these organic products is done through your clients and not directly by rooftop farming?
Yes, that's right. Okay. And we don't normally sell the produce.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Unless it's in the case of restaurants. So we work with restaurants, and for example, there is a restaurant called Something Wild in 𝐍𝐶, and we have set up a microgreens growing rack and system for them. So they're now growing the microgreens, and they would harvest the microgreens before they serve the customers. So that is directly from
farm to table.
Yeah, directly consumed, and it's also part of like integrated within their business.
Okay.
Yeah.
So tell us, how many farms do you have now? How many in total around Hong Kong?
So we have set up 61 in Hong Kong and in China in the past 5 years, and we're now managing about 20 of them. Yeah.
And what are some of the challenges that you have faced in your business, and how have you overcome them?
So one of the greatest challenges for sure would be the ones that usually come every year. That's like the typhoons.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think the challenge comes obviously from the fact that there is this huge risk.
Right.
But I think we manage that risk very well. I think it's also reassuring and also working closely with our clients to make sure that we are still in a city environment. We are existing. We are here in a building. So we also play by the rules, and we make sure that this is not only fun but it's also safe. So I think that's one of the challenges we had faced.
So Michelle, tell us, you're from Singapore. You came to Hong Kong with your professional career in advertising and communication. Then you took an entrepreneurial leap into this concept of urban farming. How has Hong Kong been for your professional journey, both as a professional and now as an entrepreneur?
Well, Hong Kong and Singapore are very similar in a lot of ways, but I think also when you got in, you're living here like in the midst of everything, you can see all the difference show up. And what I was very inspired by when I moved to Hong Kong was the whole sense of it's very spontaneous. It's very I felt like it's very dynamic, and the people are somehow very pragmatic, very practical, but at the same time they're also very resilient. And so I think this is it's a very humbling kind of journey for me. It was also very challenging because I was also learning Cantonese at the same time. I did not speak Cantonese at all. And so it was very fun. When I was in advertising and communications, I definitely learned a lot. There were a lot of like skills that very valuable that I brought along. But one thing I realized was that the power of that to promote let's say a product, a commercial product or service, could also equally be used to to highlight, a very important cause, like an
Right.
environmental or social cause.
Right.
So I think that was really the journey of, learning those skills, picking up those skills in Singapore, and continuing that and applying it in Hong Kong, and learning about the environment and the market and here. And now, channeling it into something that I'm very passionate about. So
Okay.
this is something I feel like I'm really happy about, to be able to bring two of my passions, into one place.
So Michelle, how has Hong Kong been for your personal journey?
So Hong Kong has a very special place in my heart because my husband grew up in Hong Kong.
Oh.
So he's been introducing a lot of his, favorite, I would say, treasures of Hong Kong. Like the street food, even like all the TVB dramas and Hong Kong movies. So when I got here, because I knew so little Cantonese, he put me on this orientation program, like
Okay.
of Hong Kong. So obviously I was familiar with the dim sum and all that,
Yeah.
but he told me to watch this very famous Hong Kong movie series called like Young and Dangerous. We call it like
Okay.
𝐒𝑢𝑠. And a lot of people question, like, why would that be the entry, movie?
Right,
But
yeah.
it was really interesting because it showed so much of the culture. It also introduced me a lot, to what Mong Kok and the other side of Mong Kok and Causeway Bay, and obviously I learned a lot of Cantonese, along the way. So I think that had a very personal connection. But other than that, I was also very passionate about, embracing the culture as much as I could. So I was full on 100%, 200% into learning Cantonese, and we were very much hanging out in a lot of the local joints. Like, we didn't, we tried to sort of be as localized as possible. And I think that was really kind of the magic for me. And I still
Awesome.
enjoy it now.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah.
So are you ready for a rapid fire question round?
Sure.
That's getting to know Michelle's Hong Kong journey in a bit more fun way. All right, your favorite casual and formal dining place of Hong Kong?
Well, I don't do a lot of formal. So for casual, it'd probably be something vegetarian. So I really love this shop in 𝑠₻水埗. It's called 𝑠olin. So it's called 𝑒𝐢𝑠 Hong Kong. Yeah, I
So
love
what
it.
kind of cuisine does that have?
It's mostly Western, but it also has a little bit of like they have this Japanese bento set that is like 100% vegetarian, and you can make it vegan as well. So
I see.
yeah, and I love it.
Your
Yeah.
favorite solitary activity in Hong Kong?
Cooking.
Also,
Yeah.
amongst all the farms that you are running, which one of it is your favorite, and which produce of all the farms has been your favorite?
So the one that I really love, my favorite is the one at the Fringe Club, the rooftop of the Fringe Club.
Okay.
So it's not there now because they're going through some renovations, but it was the very first flagship farm that we had, and so we started running a lot of our first workshops in Central. And on top of that, we are very much in love with the Fringe Club family. The team there are so supportive of urban farming, and they're so down to earth, and yeah, I'm so happy I made not only I had a farm, but also I made such good friends. Okay.
So 3 lines that describes Michelle's Hong Kong life.
I'd say it's stimulating, it's humbling, and it was also a baptism by fire.
What's that?
So it's kind of like, you become a new person, like you get reborn, but you have to go through challenges to get there.
So as a Hong Kong permanent resident now, what would you advise the business leaders around the world? Why should they engage with Hong Kong?
So we are very entrepreneurial, like you mentioned, and I think we're very resilient. And we have this amazing ability to be so pragmatic and determined, towards our goals when it calls us to. But at the same time, we have such a compassionate and very gentle side to us. So that is something which, while we are in pursuit of economic success, or even success in more material forms, but there is also this heart, that you can't be lacking, and that's what Hong Kong people have.
Okay. And what are you most proud about being a Hong Konger now?
Well, I think it's, before, I think the last 12 months, I had been very happy living here because, I feel like we are enjoying the city because the city is so beautiful and all of those, I think, aspects that we are familiar with. But after the last 12 months, I think what we have begun to see also is the sense of unity among Hong Kong people, sense of resilience, and also the sense of how we are now sort of like united. We have each other's back. So I do feel that from the people at the grassroots level, I sense it a lot, and that's what I'm really proud of.
And how would you invite your friends and family from all around the world? Why should they come and see you now that you have chosen to make Hong Kong your place of living? Why should they visit Hong Kong?
So a lot of my friends and family, they have a very different perspective of Hong Kong. They probably see it as more of like a food and a shopping paradise. But for me, the way I would pitch it to them is that Hong Kong is a perfect place to enjoy nature. As long as you have the determination and the love to connect with nature, you can definitely find it even in a place like Hong Kong that's so densely built up.
Well, thank you so much, Michelle, for being on our show today.
Thank you,
we wish
Jaya.
you all the best for all your future endeavors.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I'm so privileged to be here.
Stay tuned for our next episode on Dreams, Passion, and Your Hong Kong Story, where we bring you yet another fascinating story from this wonderful land, Hong Kong.